Okay, we are going into week 9. We're here in the podcast, View from the Bottom, with your host, the current champ, Matt Carney, the Winchbag McTory boy. Yes! Yeah, we've got some key matchups going into the playoffs this week. We're just going to do our usual thing, review the transactions. I've got a little piece of history on our least likely to make the playoffs at the minute contender. And then we'll get into the matchups and what's available on waivers. So, first of all, a couple of moves that were made since last pod. We had myself picking up Kenyon Drake, which I can't believe you all let me had him for free. It looks like Gus isn't going to play. He's going to be competing with Justice Hill for runs. Not a bad spot to be. I also picked up Terrace Marshall. So I picked up Terrace Marshall mostly for this snap percentage going up. So ever since all the trades happened, his snap percentage has gone to 86%, 93%, and he's got 9 targets last week. Yeah, he only holding 4 of them, but he's basically a rookie who's not played at all. We'll see if he can improve. Dropping Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's just a guy. I dropped Chase Edmonds to pick up Ronnie Rivers as well, which I think is, in hindsight, a bit of a stupid move. Ronnie Rivers, he's a practice squad guy for the Rams. They're basically filling time until this Kyron Williams or whatever the fuck his name is comes back from IR. They might promote him again, but I don't think I would play him, so I don't know why I did this. I think I'd rather have kept Chase Edmonds and see what they did with him in Denver. Jim made some moves, so he dropped Rashad Bateman, who is out for the season now with foot injury. Similar to Nick dropping Treylon Burks, I get it. You're not going to keep him. He's just clogging up a bench spot. Get rid of him. He goes through waivers tomorrow, so if you are still a keeper needy team, then pick this guy up on the cheap from waivers, put him in your IR slot, and yeah, he's a very, very low effort keeper there for someone. For all the guys who are competing for the playoffs, you probably want to keep the bench spaces open for it. So yeah, just bear that in mind. For someone like Kinch, this might be a great move because you could go into next year, you get Derrick Henry, you get Rashad Bateman, you get Treylon Burks, you get Christian Kirk, and all of a sudden you've got a load of pieces going into next year, where the rest of this is just really sad to look at. But yeah, you could then be going into next year with Rashad Bateman, Treylon Burks, Christian Kirk and Derrick Henry, and that's quite a good foundation. Shitload of picks as well. These guys should be good next year, so I think that's quite a nice move. Jim pairs that with picking up Isaiah Likely. If Mark Andrews doesn't play, this guy's a smash starter. And again, I appreciate why you do this. Like, Rashad Bateman's not going to help you this year, so you're not going to keep him either. Get rid. It's a shame you didn't sell people and take value while you could, but I also get why you don't, because you want people who can contribute to your team. So yeah, but you had such high value guys and they just kind of lounged on your bench and then died. So, which is part of the game, but also there's better ways to play in my point of view. Numbnuts comes on to the chat and says Austin Eckler's dead. Runs and grabs Sony Michel. Like, fucking hell, dude. You can't do this sort of stuff to me. Like, for a start, Austin Eckler's not even dead, and Sony Michel's a piece of shit. We've known this for ages. I don't know why. Why did you do this to me? Bit of a waste of a move now that Eckler's back, but whatever. Darrell Henderson's not that good anyway. Mikey D, he gets Gus Edwards off of waivers. Like, we really need to stop letting this guy do this sort of stuff, because when Gus comes back healthy, he's going to be the starter in Baltimore, like with what's his face dead, J.K. Dobbins. $18, quite cheap for a starter. We've really got to stop letting this happen. But for this week, he's not really going to help you. I don't think you need the help though, really. Ed, I like this move. Elijah Moore, he's in a shit situation. He's being a squeaky wheel in New York at the minute. So yeah, get rid of him. He's not helping you. I wonder if there's better pickups we could have made than Hunter Renfrow, though. I don't think he's got loads of value with Matt Collins, Devontae Adams, if Darren Waller comes back as well. And Derek Carr just seems to be completely shit at the minute. With how good Josh Jacobs is doing on top of all that, it's just not a good spot to be. Then we had Kinch claiming Treylon Burks off waivers. So, mentioned this before, 21 fab is a very, very low price to pay for a guy who is a keeper. He's a wide receiver, drafted very highly. He's to be the number one on the team, and we don't really know what he can do yet. So, because he's been injured. So, the best hope is he skips the rest of the season and goes and has a good camp, a healthy camp next year, and everyone's happy. So, yeah. Last thing I want to look at before we get into the matchups is we briefly touched on the standings last week in the last episode, but I want to focus in. I'm going to probably pick some teams like for every episode and just kind of do a little deep dive on what their chances are and whether they could make the playoffs. So first one I want to do is Numbnuts. He's 2-6 at the minute. He's got 740 points scored. He's probably about 100 points behind the guys who are going to be contending for like the sixth spot, basically. Last year, Numbnuts was actually in a similar situation. He was 2-7, and he ran the table the last 5 games. He beat Matt, Kinch, Connor, me, the champion, and Mike, the semi-final that should have been the final. So he beat 5 very, very good teams, and he averaged 130, apart from Kinch, obviously, and he averaged 130 points a week while doing it, which is, again, that's the sort of points you're going to need to score to make up the deficit that you've got to the guys going for the playoff spots at the minute. It can be done. He did it last year. He had a much better team last year, potentially. And this time I don't know if the table's harder or if the teams are just better around him. So this time he has to be he's got Mark this week, who is in bye week hell, so he's got a good chance there. He's got Damien next week. He's got Mike, which is a tough one. He's got me, he's got Connor, and he's got Kinch. So winning 5 of those 6 games puts you in with a shout. Scoring over 120 points a week will really, really help your case there. You're going to need Dalvin Cook to work real fucking hard to get you there, and you need James Conner to come back and start scoring touchdowns ASAP. I don't think you can do it. And again, I think you're probably your season will be done and definitely in the bake by the time you play Mike here. You might sneak a win this week against Mark, but we'll get into that in the matchups. And yeah. I don't know. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. Numbnuts. He needs the Great Escape twice in a row to avoid the poo bowl. I'm excited to see if you can do it, and we'll review your matchup this week and see what kind of start you're going to get to. Okay, so we'll review the matchups real quick, and then we'll get into the waivers and the players who are available. We'll try and focus on seeing where we can improve people's squads if we have to. So first of all, we got myself playing Jim, Winchback McTory Boys playing How I Metcalf Your Mother. I wonder if you're even starting DK Metcalf this week. I'm currently 4-4. Jim's 3-5. I've got 122 points projected, and Jim's got 112, and we both had some players play last night. So yeah, we had Damian Pierce go for 139 yards off of 27 carries. It's averaging over 4 yards a carry. It's about 4.5, something like that. Very, honestly, you can't complain with that against the Philly defense. Should really be over the moon with that, to be honest. I had Dallas Goedert. He went for 100 yards and a touchdown and 8 catches. 20 points from a tight end. You love to see it. And then that's the only ones that we had play. But it does mean I'm far above my projection already. But the original projections had this about 50-50. Wouldn't read too much into it though. So in terms of the keys to this matchup, I think Jim, you've got Aaron Rodgers playing against Detroit. That is a get-right game if ever I saw one. If you can't get it done against Detroit in a dome, it's time to start really, really worrying about the Green Bay Packers and what that offense can do. Yeah, the worry is that they score it all on the ground and he doesn't need to do anything. Alvin Kamara's got a sweet matchup against Baltimore, but again, Mark Ingram's out, so he's going to get fed. That's going to be strong. Arizona, they're quite good to pick on in terms of the pass game, and that's DK Metcalf in with a good shout, and then you got Jalen Waddle as well at Chicago. Chicago defense is improving, but they did lose Roquan Smith. They got traded away. Yeah, outside though in Chicago, quite a long way to travel from Miami. Could be a tough one. Your defensive plays are fine. Like you've got Minnesota at Washington. Washington aren't very good. Yeah, I think you've got a pretty strong team there. Myself playing, we've got the sweet Josh Allen and Diggs stack at New York, but New York weather at this time of year could be fucking dog. If it's raining again, that could absolutely torpedo me. Ramondre Stevenson's a monster. Kenny Drake, like this matchup, Kenny Drake versus Kamara. Gus Edwards probably isn't going to play. DMP twice in a row, so I quite like that matchup. I hope Kenny Drake plays. Oh, we've got a lot of Monday night football to be played here to decide it. But yeah, and I think overall the stack of Allen and Diggs is too strong. I think it's like if it's wet, we're probably going to get an early touchdown to Diggs, and then Josh Allen's just going to run the ball a shitload. So that's why I'm kind of backing myself here. I also think Kamara is quite unlikely to reach 16, 17 points, which he's projected. He's going to need some breakaway runs, which Baltimore are kind of getting better against. Next up, we have Matt versus Mike. We have Matt is on 3 and 5. Mike is on 7 and 1. I don't know how he keeps getting away with it, but he does. Yeah, we had a couple of players play for Matt's team already. So he's got the Philly defense, which scored him 11 points. Can't complain about that. And then AJ Brown, who got 13.9, getting 60 yards and a touchdown and a couple on like 4 catches. So yeah, I quite fancy Mike to win here. Austin Eckler has got a great match against Atlanta, and Dante Foreman, it looks like Chuba Hubbard's going to miss time again. Patrick Mahomes as well got a sweet match against Tennessee. He's going to come back, and he's got the Juju stack as well, so that's actually been working really, really nice. And let's face it, like I think Gabe Davis is probably going to miss his projection. That's like the one weak point. But yeah, everything else is just a very, very nice matchup there. New England defense feasting on a rookie QB as well. On the other side, Matt, you've got a very strong team, but I just don't trust Lamar Jackson anymore. I just don't trust him at all. And like Mark Andrews, I don't know if he's going to play. I don't know if he will at all. Interesting stat, Justin Fields is the QB2 of October so far. Which is a weird stat. It's probably not a very good guide for anything. But man, I just don't trust Lamar Jackson. Kenny Walker should have a smash start though, and Raheem Mostert on the ground at Chicago. Again, if it's a windy game, he's going to do great. But Austin Eckler and these guys are going to completely smash. And Patrick Mahomes has just looked indomitable. Yeah, that's the word I'm going to go with. So yeah, Devontae Adams, what's happening there? What is happening? Also, rain in Jacksonville means a fucking hurricane. So yeah, I don't know. I just there's too many question marks for me here. Aside from Kenny Walker and who's going to smash Raheem Mostert, they're bringing guys in to replace him. It's just rough, real rough. I'd feel better about your chances if Saquon Barkley was in instead of Raheem. But we are where we are. Yeah, I fancy Mike to win here. He's got the nice stack with Juju, and he's got great matchups for his running backs. Next, we have Damien versus Ed, a perfect 50-50 game. I've gone a bit controversial and picked Damien here. I think his team is really rounding into form. And the main reason I've gone with this is DeAndre Swift is going to probably miss the game again. So Jamal Williams is probably good for 2 or 3 touchdowns on the ground. Green Bay are not very good against the run, so I think I think it's a very good start for Williams. Josh Jacobs had a rough week last week, but I think he comes back and he's great. Murray and Hopkins, this stack is fucking sweet. So yeah, that's a great spot to be in. Plus DJ Moore in Carolina is just the only man standing. You're probably going to lose. I don't think Darren Waller plays, but if he does, he's fine. Your backup options is on a bye week, so be prepared to make a move there. Yeah, I think on the other side, Ed, we're relying on that Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette stack again, which does work sometimes. Travis Etienne, certified baller now with his prime ownership of the running back spot there in Jacksonville. But I don't know with Josh, like it's he's a small boy. He is a small boy. Only 215 pounds. Yeah, I don't know how well he's going to carry the load, but I also don't think like he's probably, well, I don't know, he's gonna have a good game. This is the one I'm worried about. Tyreek Hill getting 20 points, projected 20 points against Chicago. That is absolutely insane. Like, I know he's fucking great, he's the cheater and everything, but that's just not gonna happen. Um, I also don't think Hunter Renfro is going to do anything, and I'm a massive Kyle Pitts hater. So yeah, that's why I'm going for Ed mostly. Like I love the Kyler Murray D-Hop stack this week, and I love his running backs. I'd think Tyreek Hill misses his projection. Um, yeah, then we go on to Numbnuts versus Mark. So this is very interesting, and I think Mark's in a real predicament here, a real tough spot. He is in bye week hell. So his buys currently, he's got Dak Prescott on a bye, George Kittle on a bye. He's got Cordarrelle Patterson, who hasn't yet come off of injured reserve, so we don't know if he's going to play, which means at the minute he's starting Pacheco and Joe Mixon. Christian McCaffrey on a bye, Tony Pollard on a bye, Amari Cooper on a bye, Marquez Valdes-Scantling as backup in case Lazard doesn't play. So yeah, the decisions you have to make here. He's also already got his IR spot filled with Mike Thomas, so he can't even slide someone into his IR to solve this situation. It is a real problem because you want to be in a position where you can drop Pacheco because Patterson is playing, so you can pick up a QB, and then you're still short a spot for tight end. You're still short a spot for tight end. So yeah, it's awful. It's properly awful. Like I think you're probably waiting to see what Lazard does, and then you're probably making an awful call to like cut Lazard, put Marquez Valdes-Scantling in, and pick up a tight end because you can't drop George Kittle either. Um, yeah, this is awful. This is why I'm picking Numbnuts to win this one because I think like yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot of simpler equation for Numbnuts, right? He just needs Dalvin Cook to go off against Washington, who aren't very good. He needs James Conner to score some touchdowns against Seattle, which can happen. And if not, you put Jeff Wilson in and you just ride whatever he can do for you. Geno Smith against Arizona, I like it. Terry McLaurin with Taylor Heineke is fine. Thielen scores some touchdowns. Mecole, last time he was out, he was used quite a lot. And then we've got Robert Tonyan in the Aaron Rodgers revenge game. As a side note, Numbness, I don't think this is a roster that can win 5 games in a row, but that's okay. Yeah, but I genuinely like if Cordarrelle doesn't play, like I don't know how Mark fixes this situation. I really don't. I don't think he can field an eligible lineup this week without dropping some really good players. Yeah, I think it's like honestly, Mark, if you want my advice now, you've got Mike Thomas in your IR slot. I don't think he plays again this year. I'd just boot him, just kick him to the curb. Slide Cordarrelle into your IR slot now, and just get a legal roster out there. Um, but you're still fucked on the tight end front. So you're basically again you're waiting until the last minute, and you're just making this awful decision to like cut Alan Lazard. Yeah, it's just not a fun place to be. And I don't think the options to bring people in are very good on the waiver wire. Hence, I think Numbnut steals a win here. Very interesting matchup. Very interesting matchup. Next, I've gone with Skell to beat Connor. So Skell at the minute is 5-3. Connor is also 5-3. So battle of titans going on here. We also had some players play already. So Connor's had Jalen Hurts play, got 19 points from the Houston Texans game. Going to assume it all came in the first half, as they tend to do. And then we've got Devontae Smith with 22 yards and 2 receptions. Again, I'm assuming he didn't have anything to do. Yeah, I think this is one for the taking for you, Skell. DeAndre Swift on Connor's side, he's got DeAndre Swift and Singletary at running back. I don't think DeAndre Swift is going to play, so we're looking at sliding in Caleb Huntley because it's the Nick Chubb bye week, which is a huge downgrade. Singletary as well. He's just had Naheem Hines brought in for competition, so we could see him start to lose touches there. Chris Godwin is fine. He's a good wide receiver too. He's going to get a lot of play from Tom Brady. T. Higgins, theoretically a smash start. He kind of saved his week last week with that last minute touchdown. So yeah, it's like he needs to be the wide receiver one now. I don't know if he can do it. Yeah, the defense of the tight end, this is all whatever. It's a rough spot for Connor to be in, to be honest. Like Devontae Smith should have been a good play against Houston, but he wasn't. And yeah, the running back situation can severely downgrade for him. On the other side, Justin Herbert, he's missing Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and potentially his tight end, I think, as well. That's really not ideal, but Atlanta aren't very good. So hopefully he can get either a QB sneak or something to pump up his numbers, and he can just have a all right day feeding Josh Palmer. We'll see. Aaron Jones, though, against Detroit on the ground should be awesome. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't know. He's not the starter anymore, which might work in his favour in KC, but it's very much committee. You're hoping for catches and stuff like that. I love the Devin Duvernay start this week with Rashad Bateman out, Mark Andrews potentially missing. Yeah, he should be a smash play. Amon-Ra St. Brown, if he doesn't get unlucky with injuries again, he'll be awesome. And then Tyler Lockett as well. Fuck, he's so goddamn good. He's just always good. Taysom Hill, I haven't actually checked the QB situation in New Orleans. So if it's Andy Dalton, Taysom Hill's probably going to run like 10 times for 60 yards or whatever. I've mentioned the Miami defense already. It's a fucking trap, Scale. It's a goddamn trap. But we'll go through what your options are. I think, yeah, you're fine. I would honestly consider putting Michael Carter in over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know they brought in James Robinson, but he kind of lost his juice at the end there in Jacksonville. So, yeah, just well, actually, he's got Buffalo. Yeah, maybe not. Scratch that. Stick with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But yeah, this is more a case of I don't think Connor has the pieces on his bye week to beat Skell here. Final matchup, we have the Joe Bunglers facing off against the Winchbag Asset Management. Kinch is 3-5, still in the playoff hunt, and Nick is 5-3, looking pretty dominant form-wise going in. We had a couple of players, so Kinch had Jake Elliott play. He missed a field goal, which would have helped his stat line, but he only got 3 points. And then, yeah, Nick had Miles Sanders play, who only got 17 carries on the ground. Only 17 carries, fucking hell, listen to me. Nearly 100 yards and touchdown. Lovely stat line for Miles Sanders, to be honest. Yeah, I think this should be a pretty simple affair for Nick. Joe Burrow should do better against Carolina. He can't really do much worse than what he did last week. Gibson has been getting more and more touches, and yeah, with Jonathan Taylor out there, I would probably just put Deion Jackson in over Gibson. I think that's a better play. Your receivers, yeah, you've got Cooper Kupp, Jamar, Justin Jefferson, and Rondale Moore is sneaky good. He just gets the catches, which is great for our league setup. Travis Kelce, again, you've got all your heavy lifters back who are going to do the work for you. They're just going to do the work. They've got fine matchups. They're just going to get the job done. Just watch Cooper Kupp's ankle. Should be fine though. On the other side, you've got Derrick Henry with a nice matchup at KC. But KC have shown they can shut him down before, so maybe they do it again. Kirk Cousins, I quite like his matchup against Washington as well. But Tyler Algier, if Caleb Huntley gets a lot of really caps his value, and also Cordarrelle might be back, which means this guy goes to 0 for me. So yeah, that's not ideal. You've got receivers wise, Christian Kirk. He's really fell off as the season's gone on, but we're hopefully in a get right game for Trevor Lawrence. So maybe we see improvement there. Darnell Mooney versus Miami. He's a dart throw, but a good dart throw. And then fucking Garrett Wilson, catching passes from Zach Wilson. That is just depression on depression. You've got the tight end stack now. So yeah, you've got Kirk Cousins stacked up with Hockenson. I quite like it. Yeah, why not? It's should be quite interesting. I don't really know why the move was made in the NFL, but for you, it's Hockenson has a better offense and a better coaching staff, I would say, and a better QB. Kirk Cousins is slightly better than Jared Goff. So yeah, see how they use him this week. Fuck it. I mean, I wouldn't say change anything because fuck it, it's tight ends. I don't really care about tight ends. Yeah, I would definitely look to slide in Eno Benjamin over Algier if Connor is out, but I don't know the status of that yet, so keep an eye on it. Overall, though, Nick's powerhouse players are available. He should stomp Kid, should stomp him. So yeah, those are my picks. They're all in the chat. You feel free to abuse them however you want. Let's review what's available on waivers. Okay, let's quickly review the waiver wire or free agency pool before we wrap this episode up. We'll start off with QBs. So in terms of people who need to improve at QB, we know Mark absolutely needs one because his is on bye, but outside of that, I think everyone's kind of doing solid in terms of QBs. So people would buy Matt's covered himself for week 10. No one else has got a week 10 QB on bye. So yeah, there's only really Mark that kind of needs to pay attention to this. QBs that are available that I kind of like I think Jared Goff against Green Bay is a bit of a trap. I think Detroit are just as likely to score 0 as to score 30, so I don't think you can really trust that. The ones that catch my eye, and I hate to say it, it's Trevor Lawrence and Derek Carr. I'm kind of torn between whether this is going to be the type of retarded game that ends in 0-0 or 3-3, or the type of retarded game that ends in 34-35. I think there's going to be points scored because there are enough explosive players on either side of the ball to make that happen. And I think Trevor Lawrence would be the one I'd go with because he's due a get right game. He's not this bad at QB, and he does run them in. They do like to do a sneak on the goal line. So yeah, Trevor Lawrence would be my choice from these QBs. If you could hold your nose and start Andy Dalton as well, but that's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling at all. Yeah, but I'd go with Trevor Lawrence at QB or Derek Carr, maybe if you want to be a homer. Running backs. So running backs are a bit of a wasteland. I don't think there's anyone here who's going to contribute straight away. If you need points, absolutely need points from your running back position, which again, Mark, you might do because you're looking at Pacheco being one of your starters. I think you're kind of shit out of luck. You really need Cordarrelle Patterson to play, is what I would say. Yeah, so the ones that I think deserve calling out, and again, this is kind of you want the guys who are going to be key backups. So Rashad White, obviously, if Leonard Fournette goes down, he's going to have great uptick in volume. Zach Moss, we're already missing Jonathan Taylor this week. I don't think he's at risk of taking over Deion Jackson this week, but I do think like he's one worth picking up and seeing how they use him if JTT misses more time. Matson goes without saying, he should be stashed if you've got the space, because if Dalvin Cook goes down, he looks elite. Same with Samaje Perine and Jermichael Hasty for those reasons as well, because they're kind of following lead backs. The deep dive one that I think is worth looking at is this guy, Craig Reynolds. So he had one good week in his history, and that is when DeAndre Swift missed time the first time round. They used this Reynolds guy quite a lot. So if DeAndre Swift is going to miss time and you need points, I think Reynolds might be one you could just slip in and hope for the best. But yeah, it's just there's no one here that's really going to help you if you absolutely need points this week. Ed, instead of Hunter Renfro, I'd be taking any of these guys. I'd get Rashad White back. I'd get Zach Moss in. I'd definitely get Madison in. Any of these high value backups are worth having on your roster over Hunter Renfro, in my opinion. Speaking of Hunter Renfro and wide receivers, there's a couple of people that I like the look of this week. So this DeAndre Carter, if he's healthy and if he plays, Atlanta are quite weak against the pass, and the Chargers just have no one else. So he's worth a look if you're really struggling for wide receivers. You've also got Tyquan Thornton. Snap shares going up, but the catches aren't that great so far. If you got the room, he's worth slapping on the end. I'd probably put Hunter Renfro below this guy if that's like the line we're using for this bit. Yeah, then after that, Paris Campbell. New England are surprisingly bad against the pass, so that is someone you could look at, especially with Sam Ehlinger. We don't actually really know who he's going to be looking to. We're chasing the points a little bit, but the snap percentage is good, so yeah, why not gamble? And then the last one that I like is again, we're kind of banking on is this going to be that retarded game that's 30 points each, or is it going to be 4 points each? Like, who knows? But yeah, I Marvin Jones as a potential slide in. He's probably bottom of that pile of guys I just mentioned. Outside of that, you've got your usual ones you might want to stash. So, I mean, Julio Jones. It's Julio fucking Jones. Why not? Anything could happen. But I wouldn't really trust it too much. Robbie Anderson as well. He's recently moved teams, so he's probably worth stashing and seeing what he does. But yeah, you're really getting desperate after that. It's not really worth looking at, to be honest. Tight ends. So there is a prize tight end out there in Tyler Higbee. He's absolutely worth picking up and playing. And in terms of people who've got tight ends, you should have Higbee in over that tight end. Yeah, Jim, I would play Higbee over Knox for sure. I'd just make that change straight away. I like Ingram. He could stay in. Mark, as soon as you can sort out your horrible roster situation, Tyler Higbee's the one for you. Kelsey's fine. I'd play Higbee over Pitts this week. Ertz is fine. Probably if Darren Waller's out, Higbee should be one you look at. So Damien, if you can slip him on your roster now and get that locked down, that's a good thing to do. I would always gamble on Taysom Hill over Higbee. I'd play Higbee over Tonyan. So yeah, numbnuts. This could be a move you make. I'd definitely play Higbee over Tonyan. I'd probably play Everett. Yeah, I think Matt's fine. And obviously, I've already rolled with Dallas Goedert. So yeah, there's a couple of you people out there. There's a couple of you guys out there who should potentially look at Tyler Higbee to be added and played. The other one that I like is Logan Thomas. So Minnesota are actually quite bad against tight ends as well. So yeah, this could potentially be a sneaky matchup. it's tough with Taylor Heineke to trust that, but that's one I could potentially get behind. Will Disley and Noah Fant, Arizona, are also fucking awful against tight ends. So, yeah, you're gambling. If you wanted to just have a guy you'd gamble on a touchdown with, I'd potentially play one of those two. In terms of the line of that, with who I think, like, would I play Disley or Fant over? So Mark, if you miss out on the Higby sweepstakes and the Thomas sweepstakes, obviously you could look into it. I'd probably play Pitts over Logan, over everyone else except Higby, so you're fine there. Zach Ertz, I think you're fine there. Actually, Arizona's pretty good. Tonyan, I'd probably do Tonyan over Thomas. Here, if Mark Andrews doesn't play, so obviously you're going to start likely if Mark Andrews doesn't play, but if he does play, I'd probably go all the way to Logan Thomas over Dawson Knox. Yeah, so I think everyone's probably fine except for potentially Mark. I'd play Engram over Thomas, and it's kind of 50-50 for me with Higby, whether you'd play Engram or not. But yeah, I think everyone else is kind of fine. For tight end, it's only going to be Mark when it comes down to crunch time, whether he picks them up or not. But yeah, a couple of options there for you. The other one, one last one is Foster Moreau. So if Darren Waller misses time, this could be a straight switch for Damien if he just fancies the Vegas points. But again, it's risky in that matchup. Last one is defenses. Defenses worth picking up. It's kind of rough this week with all the bye weeks and with what everyone's already grabbed. But I think the main one that we talked about already was Skell starting Miami. I don't like that. I don't like the Miami matchup. So yeah, potentially look at these changes, Skell. Like, I think the Arizona against Seattle's a bit of a trap, but the Cardinals is okay. Green Bay against Detroit. So weirdly, again, this is one where you're hoping Green Bay get on top and they just run the game out with Jones and Dillon. Entirely possible that they could do that, but Green Bay defense is not very good, so that's a horrible one to do. And then yeah, this is a bit of a reach as well, but you could gamble on Atlanta. Atlanta going in against the Chargers. So they're missing, when you look at what they're missing, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, potentially the tight end as well, I think was the other one. They're missing a lot of pieces. And Atlanta Falcons like to run the ball and slow the game down a lot. So that could make it really hard for them to do anything on offense. Yeah, that one is a potential play as well. I think the Miami game is a trap, as I've already mentioned, and I don't think their defense is very good, so it's not really one I want to get behind. If I was you, I would again, you've already got Aaron Ross St. Brown, so you don't really want to do that. I'd probably roll with the Cards. I'd get the Cards in over Miami and just back them to at least get some sacks and picks on Geno, potentially. But yeah, it's not a nice place to be. Your other option is to pick one of flip a coin between Jacksonville and Vegas and hope that one's a retard game rather than a good game. Yeah, so that's the. So I went a bit wrong with my recording there, but that was the waiver wire review. The big long episode as usual, but you've got my picks in there. Feel free to take a piss as you usually do. Best of luck to everyone, and we'll have a much more clarified picture going into the playoff stretch after this week. See you all on Sunday.